It's interesting to realize, in the many people who have passed through our lives, those who are truly the voice of God, those who made us extract what we hold most sacred, most precious, the people who pulled us out of our boorishness, out of our laziness. Aunt Lo, washing clothes at her house, chatting, telling stories and listening. And I remember as if it were today her saying, "You need to leave here." Do I need to leave Formiga? Formiga doesn't do you any good anymore. Are you at risk of not even finishing your studies? Is your family a good family? But everyone is living under a rule of being victims of the same problem. She was referring to the need to leave school, to work, because that's how it was at home. It was a rule. And sometimes I'd already given up on school to be able to work. I was about to give up again. And that old dream I had of being paid. Because since I was a little boy, I was born wanting to separate. I kept saying I wanted a separation. She pointed it out to me. Go to the seminary, boy. If it doesn't work out, at least you'll study. If you can't stay, father, at least you'll become a good man, educated, and you'll be eternally grateful for what the seminary did. I was kicked out from my house by Aunt Lo, and then I think about the many people who also played a similar role in my life, who kicked me out of my comfort zone. And it wasn't even comfortable living there. It's that we get used to bad things. We adapt to discomfort, and the worst discomfort is the one that stops comforting us. What does it mean that we adapted to it? It's like living in sin. Sin stops bothering us because we adapted to sin. In the same way, how can a person adapt to a pernicious relationship, a kidnapper, where there is no love, where there is no respect? I'll keep talking and you'll naturally identify where you fit into this picture, because you're just like me. We are. We may have different lives, but the context we go through, the roads we travel, are all very similar. Perhaps you, too, at some point in your life, were pushed out of your comfort zone by the voice of someone who saw you as different from everyone else? Someone who wasn't blinded by the sameness. Someone who looked at what you could do, not at what you were barely able to do. Why can I sometimes do so little now? But the other person sees how much I can still do. What's different? If I only look at how little I can do, I'll never see how much I can still do. That's what Jesus did with people. Jesus saw how much people could still experience. And that's why he didn't despise the little they could do at that moment. In our lives, it's like that. People are the voice of God in our lives. They help us see how much we still can't do. People who don't consider us only for the little we can do now. And when we lift ourselves out of this context of so many impossibilities, it allows us to explore horizons that we couldn't have explored alone. And then we begin to identify the people who were fundamental in construction of our being. People who intervened when we needed an intervention. I'm talking about you. You're certainly thinking about yours too. The sameness of thought. Because there are people who see themselves the same way their whole lives. They don't believe in the new things that God can still awaken in them. And that's when we begin to die. When we don't open ourselves to the new. I keep thinking, what would have become of me if I hadn't accepted that challenge of being expelled from the place where I lived uncomfortably? What would have become of me if I hadn't listened to, or if I hadn't had that woman who was so decisive in changing my days, the change in my choices? How did God act through that woman in my story? It's funny that I always knew this, but now, reading the book, it became even more vivid within me, and it opens me up, an awareness that I have to be the same. It's so good. When do we live to do this? Guys, but I don't have the same calling as you. But you're human. You meet many people every day. You too can awaken this desire to be better in those who pass by you. Even within our own homes, our employees, awakening the desire to live better in those who have passed through our lives, perhaps for a fraction of a second, of hours, in a conversation we had on the subway, on the bus. Because when we are imbued with the spirit of the gospel, we naturally become attentive to the people who need to hear what we can say. And we're not inventing this. We learn from it. Why can't you live what you preach? God doesn't need that consistency from you at the moment he speaks to another. You may never speak to him again, but your word remains engraved in him. And maybe that word you said so often to others One day you will have the courage to say it to yourself too, and have the courage to believe in it. Will you have the courage to provoke your own expulsion? Enough. I can no longer live the way I live. I need to seek my best self. I cannot settle for this little that I have already found in myself. I cannot settle for this misery that I have become accustomed to. You know, this existential misery that expresses itself in feelings and thoughts, and then in life and attitude. I was giving a sermon, and I was talking about exactly that. It was even during the pilgrimage. It was the first sermon we gave. Furthermore, I want to express my gratitude to the 1124 wonderful pilgrims who went with me, who provided me with a beautiful journey that, despite being tiring, made me extremely happy during the time we spent together. On the first day of preaching, I was talking precisely about this. The devil, he accesses us through thought or feeling. These are the two doors through which he usually enters, making me feel or making me think. That's why I need to be very attentive to what I think and what I feel. Because there's also a very interesting rule. Two thoughts cannot occupy the same space. So, if I realize that I am having diabolical thoughts, this is what divides me, what harms me, what makes me plan evil. Luciana, I have to expel this thought, because otherwise the devil grows within me, and then it risks acting through me, the feeling that occurs to me. I can't control feelings, but I can allow it. It occurs to me, and naturally I can feed it or purge it. If the feeling harms me, if the feeling isn't, they will endure, which is constructive, but what happened nationally will shock you. This isn't just another celebrity story. It's proof that some loves are destined for Globo, not Globo. And the secret we know very well is about to be revealed. Imagine this. In 2008, a boy said, I am, with my thoughts and feelings at the devil's disposal. I won't be able to be that instrument of transformation in the lives of those who cross my path. I myself will be deprived. How will I be able to awaken in the other, in the one who is under my emotional authority at that moment, in the one who cries before me, or in the one who lives badly before my eyes? How will I be able to help? How will I break the inner prisons if I don't believe in the power to break these preconceptions? How will I make the other reach their best version, their best part, if I am not living the same struggle? I repeat, it may be that God uses even my inconsistency, my right word reach that person, and even if I couldn't live it, God does and provokes the effect from what I said. But it doesn't make sense. It's not fair. I offer something to another and then be deprived of what I'm offering. I'm glad I can identify that I've had many people who represented that voice of God in my life. Voices that encouraged me and made me believe in everything I believe in today, in God. Although pedagogically, we use this language. But I believe in God in a very natural way. A God who visits me, who knocks on my door, talks to me, who loves me, prepares an omelet for me, who surrounds me with affection, who surrounds me with attention, who also gives me orders to expel someone, who tells me that's not right, that's not quite how the song says it, who pulls me in. What does he tell me? What do I need to hear? God is natural in my life because he decided to be natural and to act in a language that I understand. Of course, the supernatural aspects of this action, which is what I cannot understand, what I cannot control. And I have seen many supernatural manifestations. I have seen many miracles that my reason cannot comprehend. They have already happened in my life. But what makes me believe in this possibility of making the gospel instrumental in my transformation and in the lives of those who cross my path? It is precisely this natural fact. It is the opportunity when I have to look at my past and realize when God intervened in my life. When did he open my seas? When did he break down the walls of Jericho in my Jericho? When did the Lord make manna rain down? When did he make water spring from the rock? Many people in my life have represented all these miracles that can figure in the history of the people of Israel, this intervention of God, provoking liberation. And the friends who lead me to my promised land? The people I know who have neither ulterior motives nor hidden agendas. Here they are pure by my side. They are sinners too, but in their intentions they want my good. They want to lead me to my promised land. After we get out of them, sometime later, you look at it and say, my God, how could I have lived like that? habits that bring us health, but are easy to change. It's because change is uncomfortable. Human beings tend to become complacent, even with things that are harmful. Many times in my life, too, facts that led me to write the book, Who Stole Me From Myself? The book, Who Stole Me From Myself, is a series of stories about people who become accustomed to slavery and who suddenly realized they were dying, not physically, but emotionally. They were losing joy, losing satisfaction. And then, suddenly, the book itself works, like a voice that comes and unsettles. I always like to read texts that challenge me, that provoke my capacity to think, to reflect. That's what religion is, right? Religion is a human instance, because religious symbols are all human. Even though they refer to God, they are texts of human realities that help us think about our own. And if we think about our lives, it has to be an exercise of reflection. I can't live well if I don't reflect on the life I've lived. It's that old story I talked about at the beginning of the program. I get used to the little I've already found in myself. And religion comes along and introduces new concepts, understandings, new things that make me think about the much. That God, even though God already sees, about the little that I already am. I'll repeat this, which seems difficult, but isn't. Religion, can it help me? Starting from the little that I can be, believing in the much that God sees, in the little that I already am, then I have a process to live through. In the same way as to become a doctor, I have stages. First, I need to learn to read and write. A doctor once needed a teacher, like the great doctor today. One day needed someone to teach him to read and write. You know, my people, in this world that preaches so much sameness, in this world that is used to patting us on the head, to removing our authority as father and mother, to making us think that friendship only makes sense if it's for us to have fun together, it's becoming increasingly difficult for us to be uninstalled. And this problem that Aline talks about here, that there wasn't someone who uninstalled at the right time, what could it be? So many people raising immature children. So many immature friendships that only talk about trivialities. Our meetings are fun. The music we listen to, always banal. So little. Evoking what is most noble, what makes us think? The book we read or the book we don't read? Everything is so superficial. Everything is especially overdone. Is what's prepared for us? It's getting difficult. Are we going to be expelled? We're becoming complacent. And that's why we need to break this rule. Because it's impossible to mature, impossible to grow. Under this rule, maturation will only be possible for those who are willing to experience the expulsion. Allow me to be expelled from what you consider today as complacency. Or at least allow yourself to question whether the place you are in today is your place. Father, but it's so uncomfortable to start over. So I won't change that. Don't leave it alone. This life is too precious. It's unique. Why waste on a role that doesn't suit you? Is the sacrifice worth it? As long as it's to make us who we truly can be? May God shower us with the blessing and protection of the Almighty Spirits. Amen.